Welcome to the January 2022 Star Wars Canon Update. This month we got 4 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, 2 books, 1 short story, and 9 comic issues, so let's dive in. The 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th chapters of the Book of Boba Fett came out last month. I'm not going to spend too much time here because I assume if you're watching this channel, you're also watching the Book of Boba Fett, and I've been covering it extensively. But the 2nd chapter was fantastic. I loved the deeper look we got at Tusken culture, especially getting to see their spiritual side. I was briefly obsessed with Boba Fett making his own gaffy stick. I adore that scene. The 3rd episode got some overblown hate for the introduction of the mods. I didn't especially love them either, but that chapter also had the scene with the Rancor, and that's another scene I quickly fell in love with. The clone of a bounty hunter that was quite literally bred to be a fighter, bonding with a giant, scary creature that has a reputation for fighting and violence was awesome. And then the 4th episode had those 3 great fireside chats between Boba and Fennec Shand, not to mention the death of the Sarlacc at the hands of a seismic charge, and Boba's revenge on the speed bikers. Chapter 5 was amazingly fun to watch, but Boba Fett didn't appear in a single frame. I'm treating it as an interlude within the Book of Boba Fett because I still feel like the episode was thematically relevant to the rest of the series, and it was also just a blast. I would say this series is a little shaky, attempting to find its footing, but it's still giving me some wonderful scenes that I have loved digging into every single week, and Chapter 5 got me fully psyched up to see the final 2 episodes. Moving into the High Republic, The Fallen Star by Claudia Gray was the new novel released, the final adult novel of Phase 1. I liked it a lot. It was a nail-biter for sure, and I couldn't put it down, but of the 3 High Republic adult novels that have been released so far, this one was my least favorite. It was smaller in its scope, with nearly the entire story taking place on Starlight Beacon, and I missed the planet-hopping, galaxy-spanning adventures of the previous 2 books. Regardless, I still enjoyed it, I read it in one day, and I can't say that about most Star Wars books. If you want to see my full review, I'll put it in the cards, and if you're interested in getting the audiobook for free, you can at www.audibletrial.com/StarWarsExplained. Mission to Disaster doesn't come out physically until March, but the digital version released alongside Fallen Star. It was probably the best of the middle-grade High Republic books that have come out so far. It was a good mix between Star Wars fun and some surprising lessons and themes. The middle-grade books in general are hit or miss for me, kind of like the Star Wars Adventures comics, but this one was definitely a hit. I'll link to my full review in the cards as well, and it's also on Audible if you're interested in grabbing it for yourself. Star Wars Insider Magazine had a short story this month that actually helped flesh out some moments in Mission to Disaster. It's still not required reading, but I did appreciate getting some extra content around some of the characters and events from the book. The 13th issue of the High Republic comic was great. Knowing that we're nearing the end of this run, I can absolutely tell things are wrapping up. Avar leads an attack on the Great Hall of the Nile, and she is not taking prisoners. The art is beautiful but terrifying and awe-inspiring. Keeve tries to stop Avar from going over the edge, but multiple kills later, it is not looking good. Avar has Lorna D ready for execution, and that's where it ends. I love that Keeve is having to stand up to the Jedi Master that knighted her, the Jedi Master that she once thought could do no wrong. I cannot wait to see the final issues. Trail of Shadows issue 4 was awesome, again. The Jedi investigator Emmerich and Republic investigator Holt catch up to the Nile Dr. Uttersond and whatever weapon he's been attempting to sell, and we find out that it's one of the Leveler creatures, but the way it's revealed was fantastic. If you've read The Fallen Star, the first frame Emmerich started feeling off, you just know what's happening, and it sent chills down my spine. Cyan saving his butt was a great hero moment, and then they retreat to Starlight Beacon, which they discover is on fire. I am so bummed this series is ending next month because I have been loving the noir mystery style set in Star Wars. The first issue of Eye of the Storm began telling the backstory of not just Marchion Ro, but his people and his family. We learned that his species are the Everini, a people who evolved to become distrustful and ruthless over centuries of war with each other and then the rest of the galaxy. Marchion's family created the Nile, and each generation has expanded their purpose. That's the gist of it, but Marchion has something weird going on with him. He sees dead people or something. It's unclear right now, and I'm hoping Charles Soule expands on that in the second issue, but I enjoyed the first for sure. The world building around the Everini especially got me intrigued. It's set up in a way that we could occasionally bump into that species outside of the High Republic, and we would always know that they are bad news. The High Republic Adventures issue 12 was really heartfelt. The Padawans get a chance to lead the mission to capture Crix and stop his plans. They are successful, but the biggest challenge Lula and Zine face is each other, their love for each other and their struggle to find the balance between love and attachment. Which they do, and it's insanely sweet. Their success means the Padawans will likely be granted knighthood soon, but I'm really curious to see what that means for Lula. Will she follow that path, or will she follow Zine? Or can she do both? Next month is the final issue of the series for Phase 1, and I'm excited to see it through. The High Republic Adventures Bake Off special issue was a fun little detour, definitely more along the lines of a regular Star Wars Adventures comic, telling a bit of a one-off story about familiar characters while they bake together. It was fun and lighthearted, but the ending was impactful, showing the bond of friendship between Masters Sai and Buck. It's not required reading for the High Republic, but if you've been enjoying the High Republic Adventures, you'll like this too. Star Wars issue 20 takes us out of the High Republic. Kind of. This was a really cool and trippy issue. Luke visits a Vergence in the Force after learning about it from Yoda's holocron. It's like a giant fungus planet that absorbs the minds of anyone who travels there. So Luke winds up having a conversation with Elzar Mann from the High Republic, who fills him in on Jedi history and philosophy and tells him he doesn't have to be a Jedi if he doesn't want to. There are plenty of ways to use the light side of the Force. And then the vision of Elzar gets a little dark, trying to tempt Luke into staying where he would eventually die and be fully absorbed by the planet. But yeah, I really enjoyed this issue and the creative way to connect back into the High Republic, not just for the sake of it, but for good story reasons. Dr. Aphra issue 17 was so good. I am loving this arc, and it's the best the series has been in a long time, maybe ever. Aphra is on a quest to find artifacts from an ancient darkside cult called the Ascendant, who used technology to replicate the Force, and it's turning out that at least some of their relics are nothing more than simple tricks and nonsense, which was a really fun twist. But Aphra has a rival archaeologist on the hunt as well, so this is turning into a very Indiana Jones-style story, which of course I love. It's all tying into the Crimson Reign storyline in a much more natural way than I feel the War of the Bounty Hunters comics pulled off, and I am surprised by how much I'm starting to love Domina Tag. The Star Wars comics in general have done a good job at pulling in characters and ideas from the old 70s and 80s Marvel comics and giving them new life. Domina Tag, Valance, even Jackson. But yeah, I'm digging Aphra so much right now. Alyssa Wong's writing is pulpy and insanely fun, and Minkyu Young's art is a perfect match. Dr. Aphra issue 18 was also fun, continuing that story as Aphra and Sana try to keep up with their new rival, Ko. Well, Ko isn't a new rival, they actually went to school with Aphra. They know some weird riddle that'll use Ascendant tech to unlock the secret to eternal life. I find that hard to believe since so much of their tech seems to be based on illusions, but the Thought Dowser is certainly real. And again, I'm loving the writing and the art. And finally, Bounty Hunters issue 20 was fine. I actually am glad to see Forlom back in the fold. Basically all the classic bounty hunters except Boba Fett and IG-88 are now regulars in this story, and I appreciate that. But I'm still not super into the plot revolving around Cordelia, this girl that can stop a war between two Corellian criminal syndicates. I just never really cared, and that was the focus of this issue. But the stuff with the Unbroken Clan Syndicate was interesting, and introduced a new ancient sword to Corellian history, and I always like relics. Story of the month was a difficult choice this time around. We have had an embarrassment of riches this month. Too many good stories came out. I think The Tribes of Tatooine or Return of the Mandalorian were my favorite stories, but since I assume most people watching this video have already seen them, I'm gonna give out a four-way tie, because this isn't a real award and I can do what I want. But if you want some really great Star Wars stories from the publishing world, The Fallen Star, The High Republic 13, Trail of Shadows 4, and Dr. Aphra 17 all filled me with joy in January. In February, we're getting another new book with Midnight Horizon, which I will go ahead and tell you is great. My spoiler-free review will be out today or tomorrow. The final 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett will be released, and we're getting 10 new comics, including the digital version of the second volume of the Edge of Balance manga, and we'll be seeing the end of Phase 1 of the High Republic on February 23rd. But that's it for today. The Canon update will return at the end of the month to cover all those new stories. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for daily Star Wars content, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.